Mornings in Fairview Town always begin at the hospital nurse's station. Rebecca Brown was carefully answering her colleague Nancy's questions while checking patient charts. "Rebecca, wasn't your sister's engagement party this weekend? Did you have a good time?" Rebecca offered a faint smile. Behind that smile, unspeakable emotions were hidden. "Yes, I suppose so." In truth, the party had been nothing but torture for her. Rebecca's sister April was known as the town beauty, now engaged to promising investor Marcus Coles. April's radiant smile and perfect figure were like magnets, drawing all eyes in any room. When people spoke of the Brown girls, it was always beautiful April and, oh yes, Rebecca the nurse too. In a small town like Fairview, secrets might as well not exist. In the evening, after finishing her shift, Rebecca drove to her parents' home. Their house sat on a hill overlooking town, a handsome two-story home that testified to her father William's success with his construction company. As she opened the front door, she could already hear her mother Mary's voice coming from the kitchen. "That's right, April was given handmade lace from Marcus's mother as a gift. It's a family heirloom that's been passed down for generations." She seemed to be talking to someone on the phone. Rebecca quietly removed her shoes and cleared her throat to announce her presence. "Oh, Rebecca's home." "Yes, let's talk later," Mary said, ending the call and looking up at her daughter. "You're early today." "Yes, someone covered for me," Rebecca answered, looking tired. "Anything I can help with?" "No, dinner's already prepared. April has gone with Marcus to make final arrangements at the restaurant. For the wedding dinner, you know." Rebecca simply nodded. April's wedding had become an unavoidable topic in this house. At dinner time, gathered around the large dining table were Rebecca, her parents, and April and Marcus, who had returned late. Marcus Coles was a charming man, always dressed in perfect suits and possessing an engaging smile. "So tell me more about this new investment opportunity?" William asked Marcus during the meal. "Of course. There's actually a new development in the Asian market." William and Mary listened intently to Marcus's explanation. April placed her hand on his arm, gazing proudly at her fiancé. Only Rebecca, sitting at the edge of the table, seemed disconnected from this family circle. "Rebecca, how are you doing lately?" Suddenly, her mother's gaze turned to her. "Fine. The hospital is busy, but—" "Hey, Rebecca," April interrupted. "Have you decided on a dress for the wedding yet? Just don't choose black. It's like a funeral dress and brings bad luck." "Not yet. But don't worry, I won't ruin your special day," Rebecca replied with subtle sarcasm. After dinner, Rebecca tried to help with the cleanup, but her mother brushed her off with a casual, "It's all right, I'll do it." In the living room, April was enthusiastically explaining interior design plans for her new home to Marcus and their parents. Rebecca quietly climbed the stairs to her old teenage bedroom. Entering her room, Rebecca stood before the mirror, examining her reflection. Unlike April's golden blonde hair, hers was ordinary brown. Her eyes didn't particularly sparkle, and her figure was the plain one among the sisters. She sighed deeply. She hadn't been feeling well for several days. Morning sickness and unusual fatigue indicated something was different. She opened her desk drawer and retrieved a small box hidden in the back. It was a pregnancy test. Rebecca's mind flashed back to her last night with Noah Harrison. He was the heir to a large real estate firm, and they had maintained a secret relationship for several months. But when a career-defining major project began for him, they naturally drifted apart. She couldn't bear to ruin his future. Before checking the test results, Rebecca suddenly felt dizzy. She sat down on the bed, holding her head. "Rebecca." A knock at the door accompanied her mother's voice. "Are you feeling unwell? I've brought some pain relievers." "Just a minute," Rebecca hurriedly tried to return the test to the drawer, but at that moment the door opened. "Are you all right? You look pale." "Just tired, don't worry." Mary placed the medicine and a glass of water on the nightstand, touching her daughter's forehead. "You don't seem to have a fever. But don't push yourself too hard." "Thank you." After her mother left the room, Rebecca picked up the pregnancy test again. An answer that could change her life was about to appear in this small window. What she didn't know was that during her absence, her mother had casually opened her desk drawer and discovered the pregnancy test. Mary's face froze with shock and anger upon seeing the positive result. But she didn't confront her daughter directly, instead quietly leaving the room. When Rebecca woke the next morning, a strange silence hung over the house. Despite it being the weekend, she should have heard Mary bustling about in the kitchen early in the morning. She nervously descended the stairs. In the kitchen, Father William sat alone reading the newspaper while drinking coffee. Instead of his usual cheerful good morning, he merely said morning curtly from behind his newspaper. "Where's Mom?" Rebecca asked timidly. "She went out with April to prepare something for the church." Rebecca poured herself coffee and sat quietly opposite her father. The silence between them loomed like a tangible third presence. "Rebecca," suddenly, her father put down his newspaper. His face was etched with fatigue and disappointment. "Your mother told me about what she found in your room yesterday." Rebecca's hand trembled. Coffee nearly spilled from her cup. "Dad, William raised his hand to stop her words. "No explanation needed. Your mother is furious. She's told April too." Rebecca turned pale. "April? But, I still don't know for certain. Was the test positive?" Her father's voice was low and heavy. Rebecca simply nodded. No further words were necessary. "Who's the father?" William's eyes stared intently at his daughter. Rebecca opened her mouth, but no words came out. If she mentioned Noah, it would ruin his career and reputation. His family was one of the most influential in Fairview Town, always concerned with appearances. And honestly, she wasn't sure herself how serious their relationship had been. "You can't say." His voice was tinged with disappointment. "I can't tell you right now," Rebecca answered quietly. At that moment, the front door opened, and Mary and April returned. Their laughter could be heard through the kitchen door, but stopped as soon as they entered. When they came into the kitchen, the temperature seemed to drop further. "Oh, you're up," Mary's voice was cold as ice. "Did you tell her?" she asked William. "Yes," he answered monotonously. April glanced at Rebecca with a cold expression. "Unbelievable. You really have the worst timing." "What do you mean?" Rebecca asked quietly. "My wedding. Do you plan to be the talk of the town?" Brown family's eldest daughter, pregnant with father unknown. "April." William raised his voice but said nothing more. Mary placed her hands on the kitchen counter and took a deep breath. "Rebecca, you've always been a problematic child. You weren't outstanding in school, and your career compared to your sister's." She trailed off. "But this time you've gone too far." "Mom, I'm not a child anymore." "That's exactly why I thought you would have more sense." Mary raised her voice. "Who is the father of that child? Tell me." Rebecca remained silent, staring at her coffee cup. "So you still can't say," Mary sighed. "What am I supposed to tell everyone at church? The pastor's wife has already been asking why you haven't been attending lately." "Just tell them a lie," April said. "Say she's on an extended business trip or something. At least until after the wedding." "Yes," Mary quickly agreed. "That's good. Rebecca, could you please keep a low profile for a while? Especially in front of Marcus's family and friends." Rebecca just sat there stunned. Just moments ago, she had wanted to discuss her pregnancy with her family. If not support and understanding, she at least thought they had a right to know. But now, she was being treated solely as the family's shame. Over the next few days, the Brown household was wrapped in a strange tension. Rebecca left for work early and returned late. She was trying to minimize her time at home. The following Sunday, when Rebecca returned from the hospital, Marcus was in the living room engaged in an intense conversation with William. Documents were spread out before them. "This plan is innovative," Marcus's voice could be heard. "Considering the current market conditions, it represents a significant opportunity for Brown Construction." "It's certainly an interesting proposal," William said thoughtfully. As Rebecca was about to pass the living room door, April stopped her in the hallway. Got a minute? The two entered a small reception room. April closed the door and looked at Rebecca with a serious expression. There's a dinner on Saturday with Marcus's parents. Don't come. I wasn't invited anyway, Rebecca replied flatly. That's not all, April continued. The wedding preparations are starting in earnest. Having you as a bridesmaid is, well, inconvenient because my stomach will show. It might sound cruel, but yes, April said frankly. Marcus's family is very conservative. His father is an influential figure in this town. I don't want to give them a bad impression. Rebecca smiled bitterly. I understand. I'll stop trying on dresses too. April looked relieved. Thank you. I'm glad you understand. I don't understand, Rebecca said quietly. I just don't want to fight anymore. That night, Rebecca stood alone in her room, gazing out the window. Her hand naturally rested on her abdomen. The small life there still didn't feel real to her. She wondered if she should tell Noah. He had a right to know. But at the same time, there was the risk of ruining his career and reputation. Her phone rang. It was the hospital, calling to confirm tomorrow's shift. After hanging up, Rebecca sighed deeply. At least at work, she was needed. There were people who recognized her value. When April's wedding was just a week away, Rebecca entered her 5th month of pregnancy. She had increased her hospital shifts and minimized contact with her family. But such a lifestyle was reaching its limits. Her small belly was definitely growing, becoming difficult to hide even under loose-fitting uniforms. That day, Rebecca decided to join the family dinner for the first time in a while. It had been planned as the last family dinner before the wedding, and she couldn't be the only one absent. When she arrived home, an elaborate meal was already set out on the table. Welcome back, her father William said quietly. He had been avoiding conversations with his daughter for weeks, but tonight seemed different. His eyes showed sadness and fatigue. Mary continued setting the table in silence, barely acknowledging Rebecca's presence. April sat with her fiancé Marcus in the place of honor at the table. Marcus gave Rebecca a brief greeting, but April avoided making eye contact. Everyone, sit down, Mary commanded. The food is getting cold. A heavy silence hung over the Brown family table. Only the occasional sound of forks and knives touching plates broke the stillness. Even when Marcus occasionally tried to initiate conversation about business or wedding preparations, it didn't last long. Would you like some wine? Marcus asked, holding up the bottle. No thank you, Rebecca quietly replied. At that moment, Mary's fork fell onto her plate with a loud clatter. She stared at Rebecca. Her eyes trembled with anger. I can't stand it anymore, Mary suddenly stood up. Tell us right now, Rebecca. Whose child is it? Silence spread across the table. Rebecca's eyes widened in surprise, and Marcus looked at April with confusion. April bit her lip, her face reddening with anger and embarrassment. Not now, Mary, William said in a tired voice. Yes, now. Mary's voice shook. In 1 week, the whole town will gather at this house. We can't be humiliated in front of everyone. Rebecca tried to stand up quietly, but Mary's sharp gaze pinned her in place. Sit down. Answer me. Mary. William raised his voice. Be quiet. Mary cut off her husband. You've been avoiding this issue too. But before our reputation is completely ruined, we have the right to know the truth. Mom, please, Rebecca said in a trembling voice. Not here. Where else would you have me do this? Tears flowed from Mary's eyes. In this house, within this family, you're harboring such a shameful secret. Marcus rose from his chair with an uncomfortable expression. Excuse me, I need to get some fresh air. Marcus, wait. April hurriedly grabbed her fiancé's arm. This is just a family matter. I understand, Marcus said quietly as he left the dining room. April turned back to Rebecca. Pure hatred lived in her eyes. See? Do you realize how much trouble you're causing? Creating such an ugly drama right before the most important day of my life. I'm not creating drama, Rebecca calmly objected. My pregnancy is my problem. But your problem has become all of our problem. April's voice rose to a near scream. Don't you understand? Marcus's family is the most conservative in town. It's unthinkable for them to send their son into a family with an unwed mother. So you want me to go somewhere until the wedding? Rebecca asked directly. Yes. April answered without hesitation. To be perfectly honest, it would be best if you didn't come back until after the baby is born. You could give the baby up for adoption. April. William exclaimed, looking shocked. But it's the truth, Dad. April turned to her father. We've all been thinking the same thing. Mary said nothing in response to her daughter's statement. That silence itself indicated she shared the same thoughts. Give my child up for adoption? Rebecca's voice was incredibly calm. Hand over your niece or nephew to strangers? An unwed mother who can't even name the father of her child is the family's shame. Mary shouted. Her voice echoed throughout the room. How can we recognize you as family in this condition? Those words pierced Rebecca's heart. She caught her breath, feeling intense pain. It was as if her mother had physically struck her. Mom. Rebecca was at a loss for words. Why don't you go to a shelter? It would suit you, April said coldly. Her beautiful face showed hatred and mockery. William remained silent, staring at the table. His shoulders had fallen heavily, and his face appeared ashen. He sat there without uttering a word to defend his daughter. Rebecca slowly rose from her chair. All emotion had drained from her face. I understand, she said quietly. I'll leave. Rebecca. William weakly called out, but no further words followed. Rebecca left the dining room, went upstairs, and headed to her room. Her movements were automatic, as if remotely controlled. Entering her room, she immediately pulled out a small suitcase and began packing minimal clothes and personal necessities. Her hands weren't trembling. Rather, a strange calmness governed her. Something seemed to have broken decisively in her heart. She couldn't even cry anymore. In less than 30 minutes, Rebecca had finished packing. She took one last look around her room. This space filled with childhood memories was no longer a safe place for her. She took a deep breath, picked up her suitcase, and descended the stairs. In the entrance hall, none of her family was waiting for her. From the dining room came April's voice and Mary's comforting words. Her father's voice was not to be heard. Rebecca quietly opened the door and stepped into the darkness of night. While she loaded her luggage into the car, no one emerged from the house. Before starting the engine, Rebecca looked up at her childhood home one last time. From a second-floor window, she could see her father William looking down at her. His expression was hidden in shadow, but his posture revealed deep regret and helplessness. Rebecca gave a small nod and started the car. She drove away without looking in the rearview mirror, her gaze fixed straight ahead. Her hand naturally touched her stomach. It's going to be all right, she whispered. We can make it, just the two of us. On her way out of town, Rebecca's mind organized what she needed to do next. She headed toward an apartment managed by a former colleague. There, she might be able to rent a room inexpensively for a while. A year passed, and Rebecca was living with her daughter Emma in a small apartment on the west side of town. The cramped ground floor room had only a view of the parking lot, but she took pride in calling it home. Continuing her work at the hospital while desperately trying to be a good mother, she led exhausting but fulfilling days. For Rebecca, who worked many night shifts as a nurse, finding childcare was difficult. Fortunately, Martha, a retired teacher living in the same apartment building, kindly watched Emma during the night hours. Martha doted on Emma as if filling the void of not having grandchildren, and was a saving grace for Rebecca. Mommy's home. Rebecca leaned over Emma's crib and gave her a soft kiss. Emma was now 10 months old, but already strongly resembled Noah. Especially her eye shape and nose bridge were like miniature versions of his. You did well today too, Martha smiled and said. How are the birthday party preparations coming along? Tomorrow was Emma's first birthday. Rebecca had prepared a small cake and balloons, planning a modest celebration just for the three of them. Thank you, Martha. Everything's ready, Rebecca smiled tiredly. Let's start at 3 tomorrow. I'll only be working the morning shift. After Martha left, Rebecca gazed at the sleeping Emma, quietly reflecting on the past year. She had not contacted her family since leaving home. In the first few weeks, her mother had left several angry voicemails, but she hadn't responded. She'd heard town gossip that April's wedding had gone smoothly. Since then, all connections with the Brown family had been severed. The same was true for Noah. His company had successfully completed a major project, and he had been featured in a business magazine as one of the under 30 success stories. Rebecca had watched his career success from afar, without letting him know about Emma. While having a simple dinner in the kitchen and checking the list for tomorrow's party, suddenly there was a knock at the door. The clock showed 9:30 p.m. Who is it? Rebecca asked cautiously. Police. Are you Rebecca Brown? At those words, Rebecca's heart leaped. She opened the door with trembling hands. A male police officer in uniform stood there. Are you Rebecca Brown? The officer confirmed in a gentle voice. Yes, I am. Has something happened? Please return home immediately. It's an emergency. The officer's face wore a serious expression. Home. You mean my parents' house? Rebecca asked in confusion. Yes. Your family has attempted suicide. They've all been taken to the hospital. The blood drained from Rebecca's face. All of them. Your parents and your sister. But, why? The officer took a deep breath. Details are still under investigation, but it appears that a man named Marcus Coles was discovered embezzling substantial funds from your father's company. After the wedding, he attempted to flee with your sister and the family's assets, but the plan was exposed. Rebecca was speechless. She leaned against the wall for support. I recommend you take your child and go to the hospital immediately, the officer continued. I'll drive you. For the next 30 minutes, Rebecca's world seemed blurred like a dream. She woke Emma, packed necessities into a bag, and got into the officer's car. As the patrol car sped toward the general hospital in the town center with its siren wailing, her mind was filled with confusion and fear. Arriving at the hospital, she asked for information about her family at the reception. The Brown family, the head nurse recognized her and said quietly. Mrs. Mary and April are in intensive care. Mr. William is in room 409. Their condition? Mr. William is stable. The other two are still in critical condition. Rebecca held Emma close as she rode the elevator. She paused momentarily before the door of room 409, taking a deep breath. Upon knocking, a weak "come in" was heard. Entering the room, she found her father William lying in bed. He had aged considerably since a year ago, his complexion was gray, and deep circles had formed under his eyes. An 4 was connected to his arm, and a heart monitor beeped regularly. Rebecca. William's voice was hoarse. Tears welled in his eyes. Dad. Rebecca said in a trembling voice. She quietly approached the bed and took her father's hand. I didn't think you would come, William said. Considering what we did to you. What happened? Rebecca asked quietly. William stared at the ceiling with tired eyes. Marcus was a fraud. He took my company, took everything from us. April seems to have begun realizing his true nature right after the wedding. She had been expressing concerns for months, but we didn't take her seriously. He continued painfully. Last week, everything came to light. He had withdrawn funds from the company accounts and transferred them to overseas accounts. When it was discovered, he attacked April. She was taken to the hospital, but remained mentally unstable after returning home. And then, last night, she, and your mother too. William wept. I also tried to join them. I thought there was nothing left. Rebecca silently squeezed her father's hand. She too was crying. How much we hurt you, what unforgivable things we did. William's voice broke. At that moment, Emma began to make small noises. William turned his face as if noticing his granddaughter's presence for the first time. Is this Emma? Rebecca nodded and brought Emma closer to the bed. Yes, your granddaughter. A faint smile appeared on William's face. She is beautiful. Sudden footsteps were heard in the hallway, and the door opened. As Rebecca turned around, Noah Harrison stood there. He was breathless, his eyes wide with surprise. Rebecca. His gaze moved from Rebecca to the baby in her arms. Noah. Rebecca was speechless. Why are you here? Noah stepped into the room and quietly explained, it was our company that discovered Marcus's fraud. He had been using similar tactics with multiple businesses. I reported it to the police. He approached Emma, looking at her with disbelief. Is she your daughter? Rebecca said quietly. Shock crossed Noah's face. Why didn't you tell me? I had a right to know. I didn't want to ruin your career, Rebecca answered honestly. You had opportunities. I didn't want to take that away from you. Noah took a deep breath and slowly reached out to Emma. When the tiny fingers grasped his, tears welled in his eyes. I've been looking for you, Noah said quietly. After you suddenly disappeared, I tried to contact you many times. But in the hallway, doctors rushed past. An emergency alarm was ringing in the distance. Rebecca held William's hand and gazed at Noah. Complex emotions swirled in her heart, but she also felt a strange peace. The trial of Marcus Coles became major local news. He was charged with fraud and assault, and on the day April took the witness stand, the courtroom was filled with tension. Her face was pale and her voice trembled, but she bravely told the truth. Marcus received a 15-year prison sentence, and his accomplices were arrested one after another. April and Mother Mary survived and were discharged after lengthy treatment. Mary's recovery was particularly slow, as her psychological damage ran deep. However, Emma's presence gradually changed her. At first, Mary was even afraid to hold her granddaughter, but Emma's innocent smile slowly melted her icy heart. I made a terrible mistake, Mary quietly told Rebecca one day. They were organizing documents for the rebuilding of William's company. For hurting you, I'm truly, truly sorry. Rebecca took her mother's hand and silently nodded. Forgiveness would take time, but seeds of reconciliation had already sprouted in her heart. Meanwhile, Noah naturally integrated into Rebecca and Emma's lives. While fulfilling his responsibilities as a father, he also offered to invest in rebuilding William's company. This is more than just business, he said. I want to be part of Rebecca and Emma's lives, and her family. Noah's father, the patriarch of the Harrison family, initially objected to the situation. However, on the day he met Emma, his rigid heart crumbled. She is undoubtedly of Harrison blood, the old man smiled. Talk of marriage progressed naturally. The couple held their ceremony in a small church the day before Emma's second birthday. Though not extravagant, it was a warm wedding filled with love. April served as her sister's bridesmaid, showing no trace of her former arrogance. Mary walked her daughter to the altar in tears, and William proudly handed Rebecca over to Noah. 3 years later, a Christmas dinner was held in the rebuilt Brown family home. Around the table sat Rebecca, Noah, 5-year-old Emma, 1-year-old William Jr., her parents, and April. She had begun working with a local welfare organization, starting a new life. Let's make a toast, William raised his glass. To family bonds. The gentle sound of glasses touching resonated through the room. Emma mimicked the adults, raising her juice cup high. Her eyes were just like her father's, but her smile was undoubtedly inherited from Rebecca. Outside the window, snow was quietly accumulating. Rebecca rested her head on Noah's shoulder, secretly feeling grateful. Life can sometimes be cruel and unpredictable. But at the same time, it is full of amazing resilience and possibilities for forgiveness. April began playing Silent Night on the piano with Emma. Mary brought in a sweet-smelling apple pie from the kitchen. Old wounds had healed, and new bonds had formed. A true family, Rebecca thought quietly, is not just about blood ties, but about people who can acknowledge mistakes, forgive, and grow together. Night falls early in Fairview Town during winter. But tonight, the warm light of the Brown home would not be engulfed in darkness for a long time.